This is the Alan Miller Show on today's News Talk, TNT Radio.
Welcome back, everyone around the world. This is TNT Radio. I'm Alan Miller, and I'm really pleased to be joined now by Shyanne Roeloffs, who's currently a PhD candidate in research psychology, who has a background in medical sociology, and as well as working in volunteer and community outreach projects, including working with youth, incarcerated teens. She is also currently serving in the Cambridgeshire Residents Group, demanding a transparent democratic process around the proposed congestion charge. And we've seen in the news that there are already some very big protests, which Shyanne actually spoke at. Shyanne, welcome to the show today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So just talk us through, please, if you will, because people are now getting really familiar with low traffic neighborhoods, 15-minute cities a bit. They've obviously got congestion charging in different places, but what was proposed with Cambridgeshire and what's been your response so far?
What's been proposed in Cambridgeshire is quite draconian compared to what's happening across different parts of the UK. So they're basically suggesting that every automobile with a motor, so motorcycles included, motorcycles, cars, vans, and lorries, all of them be charged £5 from a fee from £5 all the way up to £50.
Right.
And this is everywhere within Cambridge City, which actually includes Addenbrooke's Hospital and spans quite a distance.
Now, how has the county council and how has the council actually approached this? What's gone on in terms of democratic engagement? How's it? What are your concerns with it?
Our main concerns are that there were consultations that were implemented that not very many people knew about. And the most recent one was promoted by the GCP, which is an organization called the Greater Cambridge Partnership. It used to be the City Deal, which is hugely unpopular. So they basically rebranded it, turned it into the GCP, and now they're trying to basically push the same agenda forward. But with these consultations, as you were mentioning earlier on the show, they're all biased leading questions. They basically are formulated in a way that gets the outcome that they are looking for and what they want. And, not many people know about them.
What we're seeing, Shyanne, is that around the country, lots of ordinary people with all different sort of views that people have come. Some are still in Labour, some are ex-Labour, some are Conservatives, some are independents, Lib Dems, Greens. Many people are furious and outraged by these impositions, by the lack of democratic engagement. Tell us a bit about the protest you had, because you had several thousand people there. You spoke really well. We'll actually post one of the videos of you speaking after the show at some point. But just tell us what happened with the protest and the sort of people that are actually involved in challenging this in Cambridge.
Right. So we effectively started finding out about this, I believe, in around August, and it started getting promoted by change.org, a petition that was put up there. A group of individuals got together in a local pub, said we have to do something about this. They started organizing a protest for the 27th of November, a rally, and we really didn't expect that many people to show up, maybe a couple hundred. But we had, the police estimate that we had around 2,000 people show up at that rally. So you can see there was a huge amount of support for us. Compared to what was happening the following weekend when they organized a smaller pro-bus rally, which about 200 showed up at.
We've just heard from the Baroness Claire Fox about some of the measures that are being discussed in terms of public order bill and even further restrictions on the rights to congregate. It's obviously very concerning, right, that it seems that the people, elected representatives, whether they're at central government, who we should remind ourselves are funding many of these low traffic neighborhoods directly, as well as 15-minute cities and other measures to really reduce traffic. Some people have called it a war on cars. It's a war on people to limit mobility. We haven't ever had a discussion about having to negotiate our mobility or to be constantly taxed. A bit like in feudal times, going from one place to the other. How would you say, like, what's the mixture of people that you've got involved with you in terms of residents, in terms of small businesses, other types of people?
We have a very broad church. We've got people who, we have one counselor who's been helping us out. He's a former Lib Dem, but he actually stepped down when they when they wouldn't remove Addenbrooke's, and so now he's an independent. We've got conservatives, we've got people from the Green Party, we've got everybody from all walks of the political life. We also have high net worth individuals that are against this, all the way down to people who are really going to struggle if this charge is implemented. So we've got everyone.
You know, we've seen in Oxford that just in the last couple of weeks that businesses have had to close after being there for decades. We've also seen that in Haringey, right? You think London, it's highly densely populated, but Middleton Road, it's been there for over 100 years with small businesses. Tara Hawkins just had to close her business there. It seems strange, doesn't it, that we're in a cost of living crisis, that the whole idea of service provision, the idea of urban planning about housing and transport and improving services is now one about taxing and limiting. In fact, in Oxford, they're going beyond the 15-minute city with a proposal on the 25th of February at the council where they're going to go beyond the bus gates and the 15-minute city and start charging double amounts for key workers like nurses and school teachers and for parking. It's already unlivable or unaffordable for many people in Oxford. And you think in Cambridgeshire, basically it's a flat out tax and imposition that on the one hand raises a lot of revenues and the other, it's got to be said, and not just a nudge, it's active impositions to limit and restrict and really seems to ignore the fact that people need to move around for all sorts of reasons. And one of the questions that they don't like to address is particularly for women, whether it's later at night when you want to leave somewhere in terms of what that means, or also in terms of being carers, having to see elderly and vulnerable. Then, of course, people with disabilities on the school runs with kids at different schools and having to do shopping. Not to say, obviously, dads do that too, of course. This seems to be an all-out assault on the public, does it not?
Absolutely. And you can also see that, that it's going to benefit those who are centralized in the middle of it. If you think of it like a giant donut, everyone who lives centrally and who can walk or bicycle is going to benefit from this. And everyone who lives on the outside and is further away from things, they basically really depend on their cars. And it doesn't matter how much of an improved bus transport system you bring in, you're going to have those individuals with more complex driving and transport needs are the ones who are going to suffer the most, whether or not they're, carers or, as you said, or parents. This is basically an anti-family tax. And it's also very regressive. It's going to hit the poorest communities the hardest.
It seems like many of these measures also, ironically, are being made by county councils that don't necessarily live in the actual area they're legislating around. Is that the case here in Cambridgeshire?
That absolutely is the case. And I think I would like to add one more point onto there. Cambridge being traditionally a very small market town, it never had the industrialization or never benefited from that. So we have very narrow and small streets. And Cambridge University also doesn't allow its students to have automobiles. And again, that's one of the groups that's allowed to vote. And so it doesn't matter to them whether or not cars are on the road. In fact, they'd probably prefer that they not be, but they're not allowed to have cars. So
There's sometimes a tale between two cities. We know this in Oxford as well, between the university and the broader residents. Of course, a dynamic city, a historical, cultural city of one of very big importance, of which Cambridge is, of course, with the university and everything else, has one that caters to all its residents and has one with a view to think about how we can be innovative and come up with solutions as opposed to just impose taxes. So tell us a bit about the next steps of your plans. I mean, we together think what you're doing is fantastic. We certainly support it. We're encouraging people up and down the country with Free Our Streets and Take Back Democracy to do it. But in a way, you're demonstrating the very thing that's really most interesting or remarkable at the moment, that as local technocrats and national technocrats try and suffocate and limit, it calls out this democratic spirit. They call us, ignorant, stupid, lazy, whatever these terms might be, and then other sorts of smears. But actually, to me, it seems like it's bringing out the best in people from all walks of life, all ages, all mixture, very diverse, who are actually saying this is what democracy is about, and we demand it. So tell us what your next steps are there, please.
Yeah, so the consultation that the Greater Cambridge Partnership put forward ended the 23rd of December. We know the results are up, but they're not sharing them. And there was one question 9 that asked point blank, do you want the charge or not? And they won't even publish the results from that. And we had a resounding, over 24,000 people responded to that consultation, which is incredible considering in prior consultations, they've had less than 1,000 or maybe 2,000 at the most. So what we're doing right now is we are organizing a big rally set for Sunday, the 26th of February. We're marching in from 3 different locations, very similar to what we did in November, and marching in from 3 locations, converging on Parker's Piece at 1 p.m. And that is meant to put pressure on the county and city councilors, for 2 upcoming votes that we're looking at. And it's also to remind individuals they need to keep putting pressure on the government. They need to keep putting pressure on their councillors, because that's the only way that we see that we're going to have the vote that we want. And one more thing is that if you look at who the businesses that are supporting the GCP and their proposals, they're basically very large multinational corporations. If you look at our most recent leaflet that we've prepared right now to advertise the rally, we've got local businesses, small businesses, the people that are going to be hurt the hardest.
Absolutely. Well, calls to action are really important, getting everyone to email their local councillors and the MP. And also, we will be bringing it to Mark Harper and the Cabinet and the Department of Transport on all of these issues, because there's a bit of an umbilical cord there. I think everyone should note that date if you're in Cambridgeshire and in Cambridge. That's Sunday, the 26th of February. It's very, very important. I think that one of the things, it's got to be said, bravo, well done, because it is really inspiring to see local residences and local businesses stand up. It takes courage. Often it's an exhausting process. We know that the council kind of uses our money to sort of do all sorts of things to not listen to us. It's in Bath when they had a consultation around Goodall Road. They only went out, they had 99 respondents and 11 voted in favour of it, 12 voted against, and 5 said they did not know. And they said, well, we're going to take it as those 5 that did not know. It says, well, let's do it and let's put it in anyway. And you kind of see that attitude of utter contempt, a bit like what's happening with the people that are challenging ULEZ expansion and Sadiq Khan saying, well, that doesn't matter, I'm going to do it anyway. There's this sense we're going to do it anyway, but you've got a great ground game already. And do you want to just tell people a little bit about how it came about, how you put it together? Because we're working with people with toolkits and how they can organise locally. Just tell us how it came about and how you did it.
This big rally that we're organising in February.
We're just getting people together and getting the protest set up and that kind of thing. Just a very, very short overview.
So basically, I think a lot of people, we created a Facebook group, and a lot of individuals share news on the Facebook group. And if not, we have smaller community WhatsApp groups for those individuals who don't use Facebook or social media. And we've had a really healthy amount of support from just people on the ground who are spending their spare time on this, and also spare change. So we've got a few GoFundMe pages set up that where we've raised little bits of money to print our flyers advertising the rally. And then we ask people, we give them a location where the flyers are at so that they can go and pick up flyers and mark the streets off that they plan on flyering. So it's a lot of people just on the ground working and volunteering their time.
The kind of approach to I want to get rid of cars is there's a long provenance. Ken Livingstone said it when he first did the C40 cities. He actually said it in 1999. He said, if I get in power, I'd love to do that. And then he set up the first C40 cities summit. And then that led on to Mike Bloomberg getting involved in 2005. In 2007, it went to COP21. It's now got put on steroids. Sadiq Khan is the chair of it. And we see these people often talk about outsiders. They don't want outsiders coming in. They're organizing locally. They're nervous about that. But actually, these ideas and these policies are directly that. They're coming from outsiders nationally who are imposing these things that then locally they're taken up where lots of money is being generated. And rather than thinking about innovative solutions, how we live and work and play in better ways with a future-oriented idea, it's about limits and restrictions. So we very much encourage people to do just as you've done, right, and get involved. stand up together. It takes courage. So well done. We'd certainly be amplifying what you're doing and supporting you. If there's a message that you would want to give to any of the councillors or the MPs, bear in mind, everyone, councillors often get voted in by a few hundred people. We've already seen far more on your protest. They should take note of that. We keep reminding them of that. And MPs. And as this happens, and we also notify the main parties, and they see these things happening around the country. It's a bit like the March of the Millions. It's the Countryside Alliance did something similar, but they begin to realise just how many people are opposed to it. And in places like Ealing, residents have got them overturned. But what would you like to see the Cambridgeshire County Council do, and your MP? And just tell us who they are, if you would, just before we sum up.
The MP here in Cambridge is Daniel Zeichner, and he's been sitting on the fence with this. And so there's kind of, but we do have Anthony Brown as well as Lucy Fraser, who are listening to their constituents, and they are opposed. Any councillors that have been sitting on the fence, they have been saying effectively, this is how they get out of being responsible and taking a side, is they've been saying, oh, we're going to wait for the results of the consultation. However, Bridget Smith actually held back a vote to have the data looked at by an independent surveyor. So basically it's going to someone that works with the council, works with the GCP, and has been promoting their results to these consultations versus having someone from the outside do it, and having a more balanced and transparent process. So what I'd like to say to the councillors and to anyone who's expecting votes, they're not going to get what they want unless they give us what we want.
Thank you very much, Shyanne. I'm Alan Miller. We've got much more for you in the second hour. Please come back and join us. Congratulations. Well done. This is TNT Radio.